2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testy, testy. Boom. There we go. And we're live. Oh yeah. Yep. Okay. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Hope you're well. Turn that down a wee bit. Hope you're all well on this Thursday. I know I'm a day late. I do apologise. I was supposed to do this last night, but trust me, I was very, very sick. I won't go into the details, but you don't want to know. Okay, I'm seeing that my live stream on the YouTube's a wee bit sort of jerky, but it'll catch up. It'll be fine. Apparently the audio's fine. I still have this problem for whatever reason. When I start my software, the upload speed from my broadband just collapses. I don't know why. I've tried fucking everything, and I've just give up. So, but it works out okay. So here we are on the live stream on the YouTubes. Like, share, subscribe, click the buttons, do the thing. They're all down there. You know what to do. If you have any messages, say hi in the live chat. If you have any questions, I really do have an absolutely ram-packed podcast tonight, and I'm just going to blast through it because there's so much going on. As I talk to you, the DUP may not exist. Literally, it was just this. I'm a few minutes late coming out here because I was watching the news and shit and trying to catch up. And yeah, so we'll get into that. We'll get into that at the end. Oh yes. So I've rebranded the podcast, as you may be able to tell. So I've called it Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. That's what it's now called. So I think that covers everything for me: politics, culture, and other shit. So I'll get to talk to you about that sort of stuff. What we're going to talk about tonight is the G7. That's going to be the politics thing, mostly. We're going to talk a little bit of culture. I found some awesome Japanese cinema mixes on YouTube. I'll share that with you. And a wee bit about UEFA and the European Football Championships. Give me a second, hold on. There we go. Just realised I'd left my fix my hair here. There we go. Nearly there. Okay. So let's do this. Turn that racket off. Theme off. So, first things first. It's a big news story from last week. The G7. The G7 happened in Cornwall. What is the G7? G7 is the group of nations that call themselves the 7 richest in the world. Of course, we live in a capitalist society, so richest is defined by monetary wealth. Though there are some countries that should be in there that aren't, and some countries that are in there that shouldn't be. All this sort of stuff. It's very complicated. But basically, it's just a club of neoliberal capitalist people. And they get together once a year. They used to get together in like big cities. So they go to Monaco or Rome or London or New York, fancy places, nice place, sort of centralized places, I should say. But then the people were protesting too much at them for their liking, and they had to what would we say? They pushed them out to the extremities of whatever host country they're in. So they went to Davos, halfway up a mountain in Switzerland, and last week they went to Cornwall, and so they don't pick these major capitals anymore. They go off into the sticks, hoping that the protesters don't get to them, and it is working. To be fair, on their part, it was very clever. Oh shit! I haven't recorded this. Let's start recording. So it did work. Fair play to them for that, because there was mass protests and it was getting quite violent. Antifa and not Antifa. What do you call them? Black Bloc and all that. They all started turning up and all sorts of shit, throwing bins through McDonald's windows, which I have no problem with, personally speaking. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? So, as I said, we're going to talk about the G7. So, what has happened is, Boris Johnson has gone to the G7 as a representative of his country. It's fair enough. And I've got so much stuff I want to talk to you about tonight, but I'm not going to have time. So I'm just sort of clicking away things here. So Boris Johnson went, and I mean, it's basically, you have to be a statesman, right? So you go to these things, you have to be a statesman. It could loosely come under the term international diplomacy. That's why diplomats are good at that sort of stuff. They're good at glad handling rooms and making connections. Ireland happens to be very good at it. Boris Johnson's a big fucking buffoon. So he goes, expects to be able to bluff and bluster and guffaw and stumble his way through this, all the while threatening to undo the Northern Ireland Protocol and the withdrawal agreement and the thing about Brexit, and it pissed a few people off. Joe Biden was very diplomatic, actually. He didn't say too much, but apparently in private he did bring up Ireland and the North, and that they expect this the Northern Ireland Protocol to be adhered to, and for the peace in Ireland to be protected. And whilst Joe Biden is saying this, what is he holding over Boris Johnson's head that he can make this demand? Well, quite simply, it's a trade deal. It's a trade deal with the US. And if you don't be nice to Ireland, you will have no trade deal. So, there's that. So, here we go. I'm going to read you a quick... let me see if I can just... Did I get a wee snip from it? I didn't, but I do have some video. From it. So, I'll play you this first. This is actually Boris Johnson at a press conference. Tell me what you think.
17th, 2/3 of adults aged, all adults in the country would have had 2 doses by the end of so by July the 19th, we will have all adults, everybody over 17th, 2/3 of adults aged. All adults in the country would have had 2 doses by the end of so by July the 19th, we will have all adults.
That's what went to the G7 to talk to Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel and Joseph Biden and all the rest of them. And leaders of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen. I don't think Michel Barnier was there, but Ursula von der Leyen was certainly there. So, here's an article from the BBC about it. So tell me what you think. So, Boris Johnson says he will do whatever it takes to protect the territorial integrity of the UK after talks with EU leaders over Northern Ireland. Now, that's just a lie. Straight away, we know that's just a lie. The Prime Minister said there'd been a misunderstanding on the EU side, but said he thought pragmatic solutions would be found to border issues. Meetings between the two sides took place at the G7 summit in Cornwall. French President Emmanuel Macron said he was willing to reset UK relations if it honoured the Brexit deal. I'll put this up here instead. The disagreement between the UK and the EU is over the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. a measure in the Brexit deal which prevents checks on trade in the across the Irish border. Some checks are taking place on British goods entering Northern Ireland, causing disruption to food supplies. Mr Johnson has held meetings with the European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen, European Council Head Charles Michel, Mr Macron and the German Chancellor Angela Merkel in the margins of the gathering at the Cornish resort Carbis Bay. Ahead of the G7, the EU had said its patience with the EU was wearing thin after the UK said it was prepared to ignore rules to prevent disruption to trade in Northern Ireland following Brexit. Mr Johnson told the BBC political editor Laura Kuenssberg, the Tory party representative inside the BBC, "I think that, to be fair, there's quite a lot of misunderstanding about the EU, about the situation in Northern Ireland, the balance of the Good Friday Agreement, the peace process. I was just in a gentle way getting across what that means, and I think what we have are some pragmatic solutions." He added he thought the EU leaders understood that it is the prime duty of the UK to uphold the integrity of the United Kingdom, and said the government would do whatever it takes to ensure that. Now, there's so much bullshit in that. It's genuinely, you just don't know where to start. I'll be perfectly honest. So he referenced Emmanuel Macron. Now I'll put this little video up. So, and it was a back and forward between Macron and Boris Johnson, where that thing about the sausages, where Sammy Wilson comes out with a packet of sausages, saying you can't get British sausages in fucking Northern Ireland. Like, we need to import sausages from England to the north of Ireland, which we don't. For a politician representing this part of the world, he couldn't have got that one much wronger. But it's very typical, and it's actually indicative of exactly where the DUP and broader Ulster Unionism has gone wrong with the whole Brexit and the Northern Ireland Protocol thing. Because, as I've said right from the very beginning, what they should have been doing right from the start, is celebrating Northern Ireland with the protocol. So Northern Ireland is now governed by consent of the people. Not you don't get extra because you're a Protestant. You don't get extra on your plate because you're a Protestant, which is the way it was before for the first 50 years or more of the state. So now it's by consent, and most people are happy with that. A very small minority are not. But then, what is it the old saying? To the privileged, equality feels like oppression. Something like that. I think I butchered that a little bit, but that's the general idea. So instead of Sammy Wilson and other unionists saying, well, let's just don't worry about it, we've got great sausages here, we will export our sausages to the rest of the European Union, whilst our English, Scottish and Welsh brothers and sisters can't do the same, so we've got a lovely advantage there. That's what they should have been saying. But no, another open goal missed in favour of an own goal. So here's Macron. The sausage thing. So the sausage thing was Emmanuel Macron. Boris Johnson had said, how would he like it if you couldn't send shipped sausages in between Paris and Toulouse or something like that? And Macron said, yeah, well, it's not the same because Paris and Toulouse are in the same country. Ooh, burn, right? So that's what Johnson's remarks were there. You know, he was getting on saying, you saying Northern Ireland isn't in the same country? Well, it's fucking not, but either way. So here was Macron's reply. He doesn't speak English, Macron, so I will read the subtitles, and I don't speak French, so don't be thinking, if you're listening to this in the podcast, don't be thinking, oh, your man's translating live. No, he's not.
La France ne s'est jamais permise de
France has never for a single moment
disputed UK sovereignty.
Brexit is the child of this very UK sovereignty, and I took up thousands of hours of EU leaders' times. We Europeans know all about UK sovereignty. No other European country has made the others spend so much time on its sovereignty. We respect it. Because of Brexit, we put these rules in place. over a period of several years, a protocol on a future trade deal. All we want is for it to be respected. Seriously, calmly, professionally. It's as simple as that. When Johnson became PM, he refused the backstop, which Theresa May had wanted. It did reconcile the sovereignty of UK territory, the Good Friday Agreement and the single market. Johnson knew very well back then there would have to be checks. And he himself signed a protocol about Northern Ireland, meaning checks. Full respect of sovereignty in Northern Ireland cannot mean respecting the sovereignty of 27 member states who have created a single market with free movement but outside border controls. You cannot blame the EU for your own incoherence. I do things very calmly. I think we should all calm down. I want us to achieve together what we decided together a few months ago. Calmly and with mutual respect, and looking for arguments each morning is not the right way. There we go. When he's referring there to looking for arguments each morning, it's the British media. As a couple of journalists that I follow, Naomi O'Leary being one of them, says, if these leaders read British papers, they read everybody's papers in the morning. They get the headlines. They know what's going on. They know what's being said. So, and just on that as well, there's another little video here from Michel Barnier. I shall do the same thing. I shall read
Donc
it
ce
out.
point que conteste aujourd'hui Boris Johnson était bien dans l'accord. Il était bien dans
I'll just put it back to the start. So I will read the subtitle.
Donc ce point que
The point is being contested, Barnier, but this is not contestable. Mr. Johnson negotiated through his team professionally, word by word, comma by comma, sentence by sentence. This entire agreement, which dates the UK October 2018, this was the first treaty signed on behalf. The second one had other subjects about fishing. This one was all about the conditions for peace. It concerned the concrete operational solutions we found to respond to the problems created by Brexit, nothing else. And I ask today, as an EU negotiator, that the British respect their word, that the British and Mr. Johnson respects his signature. We expect nothing less from a country as serious as the UK. So you can sense there that the EU's getting pissed off, and they are getting pissed off. Ursula von der Leyen also, although I don't have the comment, but she said, or do I? I think maybe I do. I'll just check. No, I don't have it, but she says they wrote the agreement in English so that the English would understand it. You know, that's basically what it's boiling down to. And we know what this is about. That, you know, the DUP are making out. I mean, again, as I speak to you, there may not be a DUP. I really don't know. And as we know, the DUP have been putting pressure on the hard right of the British Tory Party, the ERG group, the European Research Group, as they're called. But the ERG have got their Brexit, so they've got their Brexit. Why would they be making this noise? Well, I think this reason, because it's not going well. We're hearing of the promises that were made throughout the Brexit campaign, which were all lies. They're not being delivered upon. Industries, fishing industries, now the fishing industry's fucked. Now the farming's going to be fucked because of a trade deal that the British have negotiated with Australia. Apparently all the ancient English, Welsh and Scottish hill farms are now all under threat. Australia's going to potentially flood the British market with cheaper beef shipped from Australia Australia is one of the biggest exporters of beef on the planet. So, with these little stories, what they do is they'll distract. It's classic. It's classic political technique. They'll distract. Look over there. And they'll make out, like, do you actually think that Edwin Poots and Andrew Bridgen and all these goblins give a shit about Northern Ireland? Or not Edwin Poots, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Boris Johnson and Michael Gove and Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings himself says, I don't give a shit if Northern Ireland was pushed into the sea. I don't care. And I believe him. He's the only one who's telling the truth. He's a wee fucking psycho. But he's telling the truth. And that's what this is. This is distraction from domestic issues. The only thing is, it may not gather enough legs. It may not get legs because the English public generally don't care much about Northern Ireland. Why should they? They've got their own things to worry about. I don't want them to have to care about us. I want us to go away and do our own thing with the South. Reunite. And we look after ourselves, and you look after yourselves, and everybody will be happy. So, just talking about Dominic Cummings. Now, this is hilarious. Again, this is properly fucking funny. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. Pardon me. So, one of the things, again, and it shows you too, the uniformity of the media, of the British press. The biggest story that happened in such a long time, I mean, politics moves that quickly these days. You know, like, I'm literally preparing for, and I have videos and notes and everything all done, and oh, yes, sorry, just before, I'll do it in a second actually, I'll show you it anyway. As I'm getting this stuff ready, everything moves that quickly that you're in danger of being out of date by the time you get your podcast done. That's the truth. You literally could be, it happened to us during the football. When the Club World Cup was announced, we were doing a podcast, and as we were doing it, we were out of date. Me and Richie. And so this is the thing. The biggest story that's happened recently is Dominic Cummings giving testimony to that parliamentary committee. What happened to that? That just went away. It was, it was fish and chip wrapper that night. It was just done. That was it. That should have been a huge story. That should have brought any government down. As someone says, if the Perfumo affair happened today, he would have been promoted. And that's true. So, Matt Hancock. Here we go. Headline from Sky News. Referencing. Because Dominic Cummings had to he made certain allegations about what was going on in Downing Street, and then they asked him, well, do you have evidence? He says, yes, I have texts, WhatsApp messages, documents, etc. Can you provide this committee with those? With those? Yes, I sure can. So now he's provided them. And one of the things that he this is brilliant. So I'll read it out to you. Boris Johnson's former chief aide has shared a WhatsApp message in which the Prime Minister appears to call Health Secretary Matt Hancock's efforts totally fucking hopeless. Dominic Cummings has been engaged in a weeks-long feud with Downing Street, published a lengthy blog post that he claimed showed details of how Number 10 Hancock had repeatedly lied about the failures last year regarding the coronavirus response. Amid his more than 7,000 words, Mr. Cummings also included a series of screenshots from what he said were his WhatsApp exchanges while working in Downing Street during the first wave of the coronavirus pandemic last year. Now, this is last March, right? So, in one exchange, Mr. Cummings said, was part of the late night messages on the 26th, 2020. He and Mr. Johnson are shown to be discussing actions from Matt Hancock, current Secretary of State for Health, in boosting the UK's COVID testing capacity. The screenshot shows a reply from the Prime Minister stating, "Totally fucking hopeless." Mr. Cummings added shortly after receiving that message from the Prime Minister, he had a series of missed calls from Mr. Johnson, who was calling to say he tested positive for COVID-19. The Prime Minister replied, "It's Hancock. He's been hopeless." In another exchange said to be from the 27th of April last year, Mr. Johnson is suggested to have openly wondered about taking responsibility away for procuring personal protective equipment away from Mr. Hancock and giving it to Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove. The Prime Minister wrote, "On PPE, it's a disaster. I can't think of anything except taking Hancock off and putting Gove on." Downing Street would not be drawn on the WhatsApp messages, but did not deny they were genuine. The Prime Minister's official spokesman said Mr. Johnson continued to have full confidence in Mr. Hancock. "I'm not planning to engage with every allegation put forward. The Prime Minister has worked closely with the Health Secretary throughout and will continue to do so. Asked if there were security concerns, I don't plan to get into day. Okay, so that's that. So Matt Hancock, totally fucking hopeless. Now, Matt Hancock had an opportunity to respond to those allegations, and this is what he said. So there you go, Matt Hancock, Secretary of State for Health. So, this is what we've been dealing with. This is what we're dealing with the British government. And I'll give you, right. Someone says to me the other day, well, asked me a few times this past few weeks, any gigs coming up? I said, yeah, we'll have a gig coming up. 31st of, show you the poster. 31st of the month. There she blows. In the Diamond Rock Club. Are you looking forward to it? Someone says to me. Says I don't expect to get to play it. And they say, why is that? That's very pessimistic. I says, surely no. Is that not realistic? The government has literally screwed up absolutely everything. Like when you go through the list, and it's a lot, like it's over a year now, it's a year and a few months, year and a quarter, let's say, from last March, although we could go back to February. They've screwed everything up. Everything that they've been tasked with doing, they've ballsed up. The only thing that's gotten going right is the vaccine rollout, which is important, and the furlough scheme. Both of those things had nothing to do with private industries, apart from manufacturing the vaccine. I think those private industries should have been nationalised across the planet until I think they should have been nationalised anyway. But at least until this pandemic is over. That's my opinion. So, do I expect to get to play this gig? No. I genuinely don't. I hope I'm wrong, of course. Of course I hope I'm wrong. I want to play a gig and miss it. It's a part of me. It's a part of who I am. It's how I exist. I need to play a gig. I don't expect to get to play it though. So just on there's the I picked this up on Twitter as well. It's just a little thing. Do you want to hear Matt Hancock, Secretary of State for Health, responding to his allegations that he's totally hopeless again? Okay. I do. So, what else? Let me just see what else we got here. I've got a load of stuff. We're going to talk about Japanese cinema funk. That's in the culture bit. We'll do it towards the end because it's fucking class. So that's the sort of the news stories that I'm going to go through. We'll talk about. We can talk about the DUP. Actually, we'll talk about the DUP now. So, what's happened? For those of you that don't know, the DUP are currently in a crisis, and a pretty fucking serious one. As we speak, as I speak, they're having a meeting, and Edwin Poots may be out of a job. That's what I mean. The news thing goes so quick. This may, by the time I get out of here, this may be out of date. Probably will. And so the Irish language. This goes back to the Irish Language Act. The Irish Language Act was a part of the ND and a new decade, new agreement thing. And it was another agreement that the DUP don't want to be a part of, but they're in government and they have to follow the thing. So a part of it was that they're going to implement an Irish Language Act, and that also incorporated an Ulster Scots element to it and an Ulster British element to it. I don't know what that is, but it's in there, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But the Irish Language Act hasn't been implemented in 10 years, and it's a cause of great frustration. If you remember, whenever Martin McGuinness brought down the Stormont Assembly so many years ago now, it was over, I spoke about this last week, the grant to the LIFA organisation. It was a £50,000 grant that was supposed to go to the LIFA organisation that they used to send underprivileged children to the Gaeltacht. And that money, and Paul Givan, who Edwin Poots has nominated, as you can read in that headline, has nominated as First Minister, was in charge of the budget, and it was him that pulled that money. And I remember listening to Martin McGuinness in a meeting in North Belfast, in a community meeting in a hall, and the audio recording, there was people shouting, "Bring it down," after the LIFA grant. This is not about a £50,000 grant. This is about mutual respect and equality. All that stuff. All that good stuff. That's what this is about. So that's why that happened. So now Mary Lou McDonald from Dublin has pressured the British government into passing. They're now going to implement the Irish Language Act. Now there's a Scottish Language Act and there's a Welsh Language Act. More language doesn't make you worse off. But this is not about language. This is about the suppression of culture, because that's how an empire stays on top of it, of a native and dominated people. You deny them their culture because your culture connects you to your past and gives you a vision of your future. And if you don't have culture, you can become dominated. And that's a part of the homogeny of capitalism across the planet. It removes culture. If it can't be bought and sold in the capitalist market, it has no value. And that's what we're talking about here. And so all cultures get repressed, suppressed, and moved into second-class status in favour of capitalism. The ability to buy and sell. And we'll talk about that in a little second. I have a little video about that. So I know why the DUP don't want to implement an Irish Language Act, especially people like Edwin Poots. And as I said, literally as I said, I'm going to check on Twitter here, but this could literally be all out of date. So let me just check this one. Yeah. So there's a wee article here, a short one from The Independent. And it explains basically what I've just said. Yeah, I won't read the whole thing. A crisis meeting of the DUP is to be held on Thursday, today afternoon, after Edwin Poots defied party representatives to go ahead with the nominating of Paul Givan as First Minister. It wasn't without last-minute drama, but the offices of the First Minister, Deputy First Minister were filled on Thursday afternoon, with Mr Givan and Mr O'Neill taking up the roles. A stalemate over Irish language legislation ended in a series of late-night meetings at Stormont on Wednesday, with Secretary of State Brandon Lewis pledging to push it through Westminster if the Assembly does not does not do so by the autumn. There was a scramble on Thursday morning. However, when it emerged, several senior DUP figures sent the party leader Edwin Poots an email outlining their concerns over the decision to end the stalemate, essentially asking him to stall the process until he had further consulted with members. Basically, Edwin Poots isn't right-wing enough. Edwin Poots isn't hardline enough. That's what this is. A remote meeting was held between Mr. Poots and the dissenting members with only minutes to go until the Assembly was due to meet to ratify the First and Deputy First Minister at 12 p.m. It has been reported that the DUP representatives voted against nominating Paul Givan. But just a few minutes after 12, there was white smoke as Mr. Poots and Mr. Givan entered the chamber opposite Michelle O'Neill and Sinn Féin's nominating officer, Conor Murphy. Both the DUP leader and now First Minister are understood to have walked out of the meeting before the vote was actually taken. A meeting of party officials, and that's what spurred this meeting. They're in another meeting now. So the DUP party membership didn't want to nominate Paul Givan as First Minister. They didn't want to nominate anyone as First Minister. They wanted to bring Stormont down rather than implement an Irish Language Act. That's what this is. Edwin Poots went over their heads, nominated Paul Givan anyway. Then the party called an emergency meeting tonight, and that's tonight. That's what's happening right now. Confirming Mr. Givan as his pick for First Minister, the DUP leader spoke of how his colleague walked into his office as a teenager. Oh, right, okay. We need more people like him to win for unionism, blah, 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 blah. When I was. Blah, blah, blah. So we'll move on from that. A couple of little tweets here from a guy called Jared Manley. I don't know who it is, just stuff I came across on the Twitters. And he sort of sums it up. The DUP pushed Arlene for abstaining on gay therapy vote. Poots, democratically elected leader, doesn't really want to lead, so chooses Paul Givan to lead. Said he won't implement the Irish Language Act, then says he will, which he then doesn't, to which the British government, whom the DUP want to be governed by, then implement the Irish Language Act, whom the DUP says suddenly shouldn't be governing us, say it goes against the Good Friday Agreement, which they opposed. Poots said he won't participate in North-South bodies, and then does, so they have a vote of no confidence in Poots, who they democratically elected to become their leader, but not their actual leader, 3 weeks ago. That's breathtaking. But that's it. It really is. That's your... I'll read that again, because it is a concise synopsis. The DUP pushed Arlene for abstaining on gay therapy. Poots, democratically elected leader, doesn't really want to lead, so chooses Paul Givan to lead. Said he won't implement the Irish Language Act, then says he will, which he then doesn't. To which the British government, whom the DUP want to be governed by, then implemented the Irish Language Act, whom the DUP says suddenly shouldn't be governing us, say it goes against the Good Friday Agreement, which they opposed. Poots said he won't participate in the North-South bodies, and then does, so they have a vote of no confidence in Poots, who they democratically elected to become their leader, but not their actual leader, 3 weeks ago. And that's the summation of it. That's literally the summation of it. I mean, that's it. And that's what we've ended up with there. For those of you listening to the podcast and not watching, why not? Come over to the YouTubes, like, share, subscribe, everybody. There's a picture of Michelle O'Neill walking through Stormont holding a 2-year-old Edwin Poots by the hand. Come along, Edwin, do as you're told, and there's a 10p mix-up in it for you later. And that's where we are. I mean, what's going on with the DUP is beyond belief. I don't get it. I don't understand how you get here. Literally, how do you get here? They seem to be completely without direction. completely without direction. And by the way, it's not like we were at war the day before yesterday and they just haven't caught up. The Good Friday Agreement was over 20 years ago. And there was a ceasefire for 3 or 4 years before that. The way for the DUP have to make the Ulster Unionism has to make Northern Ireland work for them. I want the United Ireland. But I can say this with total confidence. I know that they're not going to do this right. I know they're going to fuck this up. So I can give them what I think is a good strategy, and it is a good strategy. Sell them the protocol. Put money in your constituents' pockets. Make the health service better. Make the outcomes better. Make this a more attractive place to live for everybody. For everybody. Sell it. From day one, the DUP should have been going around England. All those industries that were predicted to be fucked. All those businesses that were going to... The people that can't drive their vans and their lorries to Europe. We've got a spot for you in Belfast, boy. There's a nice wee warehouse over here for you. The fishing industry's that's screwed. Now the farming industry's going to be fucked, so they should be selling it to their own people. That the very farmers that they convinced, which is unbelievable, they're convinced to vote for Brexit. I don't get that. I just don't get that. And this is why there's certain quarters, there's not a lot of sympathy for unionism because of the fucking hubris and stupidity shown throughout the entire process, going back 6, 7, 8, 9 years, if you want to go back to when this stuff really started to pick up some legs. But that's what they should be doing, and they can still do it. It's not late. It's not too late. You know, they can still get away with this. They can still do this. But they won't. And that's why I think I can, with confidence, talk with you about this and say this is a good idea. And that's what and you say, well, what happens then? Well, then Ulster Unionism puts itself on the front foot, and the seemingly unstoppable momentum of Sinn Féin going forward, which is a more socialist left-wing message, becomes muted because people in the north have got money in their pockets. Which again, I'm a nationalist. I want a united Ireland. But that's an easy strategy for the DUP and for the Ulster Unionists to try and sell or to try and what am I going to say? Try and achieve. It's easy. But it would involve a bit of hard work. And we know that they're not fond of that. But anyway. So there we go. So, that's the DUP. Again, there may not be a fucking DUP by the time this podcast goes out. And we'll move on to the next subject. So I want to talk about... I'll just clear my screen up here. We're going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo and the European football and Christian Eriksen. So for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, because it was a huge story. It was huge. It was, Jesus, it was massive, wasn't it? So during the week, last Friday? I can't remember what day it was. The European Football Championship started. And there's a picture on screen, a very distressing picture. I'm in the pub with my mate Richie. We're watching the football. And at some point through the first half, a footballer called Christian Eriksen collapses on the pitch. Clearly in distress, but by virtue of the fact that he's not moving. Cameramen didn't really spare anyone. They weren't worried about sensitive constitutions here. There was a close-up of the man's face, and you knew he was dead. I said, Richie, he's dead. That's what a dead man looks like. And he was dead. Turns out, had a massive cardiac arrest. Cameraman still didn't cut away. and they showed you him getting chest compressions, and then eventually the electric shock from the defibrillator, and it was very distressing to watch. It really was. We left the bar. Obviously, the match didn't continue, and we just left. We walked home in silence and in shock. Thank fucking God! Within the hour, there was pictures doing the rounds on Twitter and whatever, and our WhatsApp groups and whatever. Said the guy's awake, which is an absolute miracle. Even the man was dead, and he was dead. He'd had a cardiac arrest. His heart had stopped. The medical staff got to him very quickly, and as I said, the defibrillator saved the man's life. Now, here's the point of my story. A few years back, it was quite a few years back, like 15 years ago, there was a Gaelic footballer called Cormac McNallen, and he cardiac arrest on the pitch. And since then, there's been a big, at the time, particularly, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this clearly, there was a big push to get defibrillators put in public places, especially sports grounds. And that happened. And so the GAA is very good with this sort of stuff. So here's a report from the results of those defibrillators being available, and this is from a Derry county. I don't think he was a county player, but he plays Gaelic football in Derry. A guy called Kevin McCloy. So, and the headline is a wee short paragraph here. Cardiac arrest. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a defibrillator. When I picked up my phone and read that it was definitely an eerie moment, it sent shivers down my spine. On Saturday, former Derry Gaelic footballer Kevin McCloy received a text from one of his old teammates to say that he was thinking about him. Sorry, I said this happened. This is on Friday. This is obviously Saturday. Kevin was unsure what his friend meant until he was told to tune into the Denmark-Finland Euro 2020 match, being held in 2021 because of COVID. Denmark midfielder Christian Eriksen had just collapsed on the pitch. He had suffered a cardiac arrest and needed emergency treatment including CPR and a defibrillator on the field. The event had particular resonance for Kevin, a former Leavy GAA player, because he had also suffered a cardiac arrest during a game in 2014. Kevin's club had defibrillators at the ground as a result of the high-profile campaign that followed the death of Tyrone GAA star Cormac McNallen, who died of a heart attack, hidden heart condition in 2004. The portable defibrillator was invented. Listen to this. The portable defibrillator was invented by Northern Ireland-born cardiologist Professor Frank Pantridge in 1965. Kevin says he owes his life to the device. He said, "It is a positive thing that there's more awareness around the importance of defibrillators, and I think we should be training people as young as primary school age to use them. Without the Cormac McNallen campaign, the people who gave me CPR and who knew how to use a device, I wouldn't be here today." And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely 100% true. Now, what happens with a cardiac arrest is your heart speeds up, starts to go, and it goes up 250, 300 beats per minute, and then it stops. And it's an electrical, because, we have electrical charges going through our body. That's what makes everything work. And it's that electrical charge that has gone out of whack. And the defibrillator resets that and can restart a stopped heart. So that's how important that, or how fantastic that simple piece of technology is. Well, I say a simple piece of technology. I remember I used to coach at a cycling club. I used to coach kids. We used to go on these courses, and it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and they got on to us about carrying. It was out at the lake, because we were using the lakes, which was a public facility, public park at Craigavon, and we were bringing these kids around a couple of times a week and coaching them and training them to race and stuff. And we were doing all the courses to try and stay on top of the health and safety stuff, of which there's considerable amount. And at one point, I remember someone coming and said, listen, someone's going to have to carry this defib. This is a new thing. You want to carry do these training courses with this defibrillator. And it was quite a brick. But we did it. And, we didn't have to use it, thank God. But it was fairly simple technology. So if you're ever in a position and you see them, you do see them stationed about. My father told me there the other day that there's one on the road in William Street. Sadly, it's vandalised. So there's that to contend with. Imagine going to grab that and it's vandalised. And it's hard to believe that people would vandalise such something so precious. But there you go. The instructions are all written on it. So don't be afraid. It tells you what to do on it. So if you haven't had the training, it tells you what to do on it. On the actual fucking body of the thing. And it's simple. It's only a couple of steps. You know the thing. Boom, you clear and do all that stuff. But there's a little bit more information. But you don't need much more than that. So if it's ever in your if it's in your fate to be a part of a scenario that involves that, best of luck to you. Don't be afraid. So that's that. And apparently your man Christian Eriksen is going to be fitted now with they call it on the news a heart starter. I wonder, is that a pacemaker? Is that what that is? A pacemaker? I don't know. But thank God he's fine. It was a very, very distressing thing to watch. I'm sure most of you probably saw it live, as I did. It's sitting there enjoying my pint, and that shit comes on. Oh, it's shocking. It really is bad. So, listen, right, another little UEFA 2020 European Championships, a little championship story. And it's to do with one of the greatest footballers ever lived. I don't have a picture of him because I thought I had, and I don't. Let me just see. And it's about Ronaldo. I don't know if you know this. Ronaldo gave a press conference. Now, what did Ronaldo do at the press conference? Well, when they sit down at the table, they have the sponsors on so if it's sponsored by Coca-Cola or Heineken or whoever, they'll have a couple of bottles of their product about. Ronaldo is a fantastic role model for kids, and he takes it very seriously. And he moved the bottles of Coke off the table and set water down. And so I'll show you the video. Do you see? He only says one word. It's agua, which is water in Portuguese. So, where is it? There we go. So you get this little. Check this out. So he sat down, for those of you listening. He's just moved 2 bottles of Coke off the table. There you go. Agua. Coca-Cola. And he dismisses Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Yeah? So we'll show you that again. There's the 2 bottles in front of him. He reaches across. That's them being slid out of the way. Agua. Coca-Cola. And then he dismisses Coca-Cola. He goes, Coca-Cola. Right? So, here's the thing. Here's a wee headline for you. Cristiano Ronaldo's Coca-Cola bottle snub has cost Coca-Cola. How much do you think that cost? Minutes after that happened. On the stock market. Have a guess. Pick a number. You're wrong. $4 billion in a stock market slump. Fuck off, Andy. I'm telling you. Where do you hear this? In ours, a stock market slump in hours after the megastar's press conference drama, football megastar Cristiano Ronaldo's high-profile removal of a pair of Coca-Cola bottles out of camera shot in the press conference has reportedly cost the soft drink giants $4 billion fall in its share price. The Juventus star's snub came before he broke several records on Wednesday in defending the champions Portugal's 3-0 win over Hungary in Budapest. The first goal of the late brace saw the 36-year-old surpass Michel Platini's European Championship goal haul of 9 by improving his tally to 11 and become the first player to appear and score in 5 editions of the tournament. He is some boy. Yet before the kickoff, his exploits in the press conference made for a far bigger global impact. Sitting behind a pair of Coke bottles, alongside the team's manager, Fernando Santos, Ronaldo grimaced at items before removing them out of camera shot. He then took a bottle of water, pronouncing its Portuguese name Agua, and muttered Coca-Cola to himself, disgusted, with the action coming at great cost to the Atalanta-based drinks giant. One of the main sponsors of the tournament, which is being held in various cities across Europe, Coca-Cola's share prices dropped down to 55.22 billion. Represent from six. Oh, I can't read that. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, it represented a 1.6% dip. In total, its value market plummeted from 242 billion to 238, signifying a drop of 4%. Players are offered water alongside Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar on arrival at our press conference, remarked a spokesman. Until now, Coca-Cola has yet to respond. But with devout Muslim Paul Pogba moving a bottle of non-alcoholic beer out of his way of following France's 1-0 win over Germany, there is talk that major companies may now be rethinking their strategies behind sponsoring major football tournaments. So, well, I'm sure they will continue on to sponsor them, but maybe where else are they going to get the biggest sports stars in the world to sit in front of their crap? And it is crap. So there we go. Fair play to Ronaldo. I think that was brilliant, to be honest with you. I think that was very good. I'm dead into that sort of stuff. So, I wanted to... Right, we're going to finish up. Nearly done. I wanted to share this little... It's a little skit I picked up on something, Twitter, I think. And it's... I should have played this at the start with the Boris Johnson G7 story, but it's too good not to share it with you. So here it is. So what it is the guy is pretending to be Boris Johnson's media advisor. So, meet you here. Put it back.
Hello.
So here we go. This guy's in stand up, obviously. It's only a wee minute thing.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. Oh, don't like the look of this. Try to make the Prime Minister stop talking before he humiliates himself and embarrasses the world. Your time starts when he opens his mouth.
I think that is what the people of our countries now want us to be sure that we're beating the pandemic together.
Very good, just end it there.
Discussing how we'll never have a repeat of what we've seen.
Yep, okay, good point, you can stop now.
But also that we're building back better.
No one knows what that means, but...
And building back greener.
Great, now stop.
And building back fairer.
Oh God, look, I need the points this week, please stop.
And building back more...
Shut up!
Equal. And...
Building back equal is not a sentence. Nothing has been a sentence so far.
How shall I? In a more gender-neutral and...
Oh no.
Perhaps a more feminine way. How about that?
Oh, you absolute burp. I'm not going to get anything for that, am I? I mean, what kind of task was that anyway? I thought I'd be playing golf with Satsumas or something. I didn't really sign up for that.
Thank you.
Whatever.
So there you go. Now, just on that, that's, whenever Emmanuel Macron was talking about, we expect to deal with the UK professionally, and that's what he's to deal with, that fucking half-wit. And he is a half-wit. Don't let the accent fool you. good at certain things. He's good at manipulating things. It doesn't mean he's particularly clever. And I don't think he is very clever. So, we're nearly done. One more little update on the Van Morrison and Ian Oak story from last week. So, as you may know, Van Morrison and Ian Oak, as I reported to you on last week's podcast, fucking disgraced themselves. There's been a little update on that. So Van Morrison now targets, I have a picture of them on the screen there. There's Ian Oak on the right hand side of the picture and young Van Morrison on the left. So Van Morrison targets Robert Swan and Arlene Foster. So Van doubled down, right? Ian Oak didn't. He did something that I never thought I would ever see him do. He apologised. So Van Morrison has bizarrely questioned whether Arlene Foster should be arrested and once again taken aim at Robin Swan. The Belfast singer-songwriter targeted First Minister Mrs Foster after she sang at a press conference following the British Irish Council on Friday. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Basically, Arlene Foster, when she sang, someone says, "Have you got a song?" or whatever it was. She said, "Are you bitter?" or whatever, and she says, "That's life." She started this. She sang, "That's life. That's what all the people say." Riding high in April, shot down in May. She sung that line from the Sinatra song. Van wants her arrested because he can't sing. Now, this is a nasty, petty, vindictive little man. Ian Oak, on the other hand, apologised to Mr. Swan in person. Let me just see what it says here. I have been told that Ian Paisley contacted Robin Swan by telephone on Saturday, and said he was sorry for any hurt caused, but still stood by his claims that the verbal assault made on the health minister was a parody. Well, Van Morrison didn't think it was a parody. He was very serious. And for those of you that don't know, here in Northern Ireland, Van Morrison has his legendary status, well deserved, I'm sure. But for working class people like me, I'm a musician who works very closely with in the hospitality industry and with the hospitality industry, and a significant number of people that I call friends are made up of bar staff, waiters, waitresses, barmen and barwomen, and bar managers, etc., etc. And I can assure you, whenever you mention Van Morrison's name, or whenever, if they tell you Van Morrison was in tonight, and you go, "Oh, what's he like?" Grumpy wee cunt is invariably the response that comes back. Not a pleasant individual. And he's been known to be such a grumpy wee cunt for quite a while. The best you'll get is an eye roll. Most people will be happy enough to fit him with that epitaph, because he is. And this is him getting worse. He is 75, but I don't know. He needs to be going hanging out with his grandkids and just trying to write good songs, which he hasn't done in quite a while. I don't know. Whatever. So that's that. He's just making a complete arse out of himself. He's not achieving anything. No one's listening to him. And there you go. So maybe Ian Oak did apologise because of he knew what was going to be happening to DUP this week, and we just wanted to get that one out of the way. There's going to be enough shit going on. I'm dead curious to find out. I'm going to tweet. Actually, I'm going to check Twitter. Stay with me. 1 second. DUP are going to be trending in Ireland. Edwin Poots, there you go, number 13. Latest. Stay with me, stay with me. Edwin Poots may be the shot in the arm that Tottenham Hotspur need. Oh, but there's not. DUP in disarray. Paul Givan is First Minister under threat. if Edwin Poots loses the vote of confidence. So the vote of confidence, that's 7 minutes ago. So the vote of confidence is going ahead. Hasn't happened yet. So Paul Givan was nominated as First Minister and took office as First Minister this afternoon. It could be the shortest First Ministerial position ever. But we'll find out. So here we go. I wanted to finish on this. I found this during the week and I love it. So I'm going to play my little theme as the little divider. I found this during the week and it's Japanese cinema funk. Now, I made a mistake. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it on in the background. I'll put it on. I really hope this video doesn't get pulled because of this, because of any copyright shit. I'll put it on low. Where is it? There it is. I'm hoping that doesn't flag any copyright algorithms on YouTube. So, what I thought it was a collection of 60s and 70s Japanese funk from Japanese movies, and some of it is, but not all of it is. See, I thought that's what it was. And if you want to find this on YouTube, it's also available on, if you find the guy, you can follow his links. But this is class. This is volume 2, and the Knock Steady is a podcast, and he did this mix, and that's what this is. So this is a mix of his set. Okay. So this is volume 2. He did a volume 1. So go on there and listen to that, and then you can follow through to the guy on Instagram and the guy on SoundCloud, and his name is Trip Master Monk, and you can get these mixes, which are just fantastic. This is volume 2. The first one is heavy with dialogue from movies, and I love those sorts of things because you then spend quite a bit of time trying to guess the movie. But if you like funk and soul and disco and all that sort of stuff, which you do, I know you do, then check this out. Check these mixes out. They're really, really good. There's a wee mix coming in there. See what he pulls in. Let's hear. Let's see what he does here. Check 1, 2. Oh, that's class. Oh yes, love that. Heavy stylized 60s cinema fuzz going on there. Love that shit. So check that out. It's really good fun. I love that sort of stuff. You know, I'm into the cinema music and all. Oh, and that's the other thing as well. I haven't pulled this up, but the film that I did the soundtrack to, the short film called Clan, it got another release. It's going into, I'll throw it on next week just to share that with you again. It's going into a film festival, and the film that the Bonnevilles, the film called The Boys from County Hell, where they took the Bonneville song Long Runs a Fox, and we get the closing credit. When it drops hard. It's fantastic. It's getting a cinema release. That was the original intention for that film. So yeah, so that's good. I was talking with Connor Keys and Mickey Bartlett around in Woodville the other day there, and we were talking about that movie because Connor auditioned for that, and the director is a mate of his and shit like that. So yeah, all very cool, all very groovy. So listen, I'm going to keep talking over this because I do think, well, I'm going to stop now, but I think that the YouTube algorithm might pull this video because of this music going on in the background. They're real dicks like that. But go and check this guy out. Trip Master Monk on Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud. The link for this track is in the description in the video of this, and you'll find all those links there. Give us a little like and a subscribe, everybody. Do that while you're watching. Share, if you would. Share, that would be fantastic. I hope this live stream worked out. I think it sort of did. So there we go. I'm going to call this. Yeah, I'm going to pull it. So that's me. We're all done. Next week, we're going to do same again, except hopefully on Wednesday. As I said, I didn't get the Wednesday done because I was poorly, thick, and so there you go. So there's that. So every Wednesday, 7 o'clock, and then you can catch this on the podcast later on that night or the next day. So thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoyed it. Cheery bye. Doodle bip.